When I joined the Marine Corps, it took me a while to get used to military life because some of the everyday things we did seemed really strange at first. One of those things was called going to the field. I thought we were literally going to a regular field, just putting up tents in a grassy area and camping outside for a few days. But since there would be work, it would be like camping with extra jobs. I guess that's not totally wrong, but we never had tents since we were recon. We spent all our time walking around and living rough in the jungle like wild people. Even when we did sleep in tents sometimes, most people would pick nice, safe, dry spots to set up when they go camping, right? The military doesn't do that. Well, maybe the Air Force does because they go camping at fancy hotels. But when I got to my first job in Hawaii, going to the field meant packing up a week's worth of food, water, fuel, batteries, our guns, all our gear, radios, and everything. Then we would drive in military trucks on the highway or get on a helicopter and go from our base to different military training areas on the island. Most of these places were covered in thick jungle. Going to the field means different things depending on where your unit is in the world. For example, Hawaii was often windy, rainy, and awful at night. But besides the centipedes, there wasn't much animal life in the jungle that would bother you. And they do bite and hurt a lot, but other than that there wasn't really much out there. Going to the field at Camp Pendleton in California meant you might run into a rattlesnake or two and probably get stuck by cactus when you're walking around in the desert at night. But these next two stories, one from a Marine training in the mountains of Northern California and another from a National Guard soldier training in the Wisconsin mountains, well, I'm not sure what they ran into, especially since they say it wasn't human. These are true stories sent in by fellow service members about encounters they had with something called a pale crawler or rake. This story was sent in by a young Marine whose name is kept secret because he's still active duty. He writes, "My name is Corporal Oscar with the United States Marine Corps, and I have a story from when our unit went to Bridgeport for mountain training a couple years ago from September to October. Our Group Alpha 2 of 1st Combat Engineer Battalion went to Bridgeport to train with another unit. Before we got there, they told us back at Camp Pendleton about things like high-altitude sickness and how the lack of oxygen at high places could make you see things that aren't there. We also heard other weird stories about the training area, like people sometimes waking up when marine animal handlers, Marines walking with horses and donkeys, would suddenly walk through the middle of our camps at night because they used the same training area. When we got to Bridgeport's lower base camp, they gave us 2 days to get our bodies used to the high altitude. During that time we looked around the nearby mountains, and we may or may not have climbed mountains we weren't supposed to and took some cool pictures. The weird stuff started about 2 weeks into our time at Bridgeport. We'd always joke about scary creatures coming to grab us in the middle of the night, but something really did show up. Hey, put your knife away, we need to get these tarps up. First, it's a bayonet, and second, you have to admit this thing is pretty cool. Look at this, how much did you pay for it? $250. Damn, seriously. Did it come with a sports car and bad financing? Whatever, this thing is awesome, it's a classic. Just help me get the tarps up, will you? All right, all right. One night during a mission we called Cool Sea, I'm not sure what it means, probably combat operations something. We were at Bridgeport's highest helicopter landing area called LZL. We set up shelter with our tarps for the night. I should mention this tree we tied our tarps to was growing against a big rock wall. I was a lower-ranked Marine at the time. I had with me another Marine engineer and a water specialist we called Water Dog. We used big rocks like small boulders and wooden stakes to hold down our tarps to make a triangle shape against the tree. One end of the tarps was tied to the tree, and it was like a lean-to built around the whole tree so any water would roll off and keep our gear and us dry underneath. Another thing to note, the Water Dog with us would often mess around with his rifle because he had a bayonet and would stick it on the end of his gun. He liked playing with it and showing it off. So when night came and freezing snow started falling, we went under our tarps and into our sleeping bags around 9 p.m. I woke up around 10 p.m. to the sound of someone pulling back the handle on their weapon. It's completely quiet up there, and we're supposed to be in a training situation where making unnecessary noise will make someone angry. So I look around, and my rifle and my other engineer's rifles were on the ground next to us. Only Water Dog's rifle was around the back side of the tree where only he could see it. It was dark, so I figured it was him messing with his bayonet again. Is that you? So I asked him if that was him messing with his rifle. He gets up out of his sleeping bag and tells me it wasn't him. So now I'm thinking someone, maybe one of the infantry guys we're training with, snuck up to our area and is messing with us. So I pull out my knife and crawl out from under the tarps. I'm going to go scare some guy who thinks he's going to scare us, right? But there was nobody else nearby. What the hell? Hey Oscar. Yes, Sergeant. What the hell are you doing? I heard a noise. Did you hear like a rifle or something? Yeah, was that you guys? No, Sergeant. What's with the knife? I came out because I thought it might be one of the infantry guys or something. Yeah, okay, let me go ask the guards and see if they're messing around. So when I came out, my sergeant saw me coming up out of our shelter and walked up to me and asked what I was doing, standing there holding a knife. I asked if he had heard the noise we did and he said yes, thinking it was one of us working our rifles, which I told him it wasn't. So then he walks over to the nearby infantry soldiers on guard duty and asks if he or his guys were messing around with their rifles, but that guy didn't know anything about it either. So our sergeant comes back and tells us that and says to just go back to sleep. So I went back in my sleeping bag and forgot all about it. Next time I woke up was 6 a.m. But now our tarps were all on the ground like something had pulled them down off the tree. The small boulders we used to hold them down were nowhere to be found, and the stakes were gone too. So as we're trying to figure out what happened to our tarps, our sergeant comes back and tells us what he saw earlier that night. He said he didn't mention it because he thought he was seeing things, but after he told us to go back to sleep and I had crawled back into my sleeping bag, something caught his eye at the top of the rock wall behind us. He looks up and sees this bald, naked, human-looking thing with shining eyes looking down from on top of the rock wall. As soon as he spotted it, he saw it duck away immediately. My first thought was a video I'd seen of a guy filming his house because he thinks there's a creature around it. When he sees it on top of his roof while filming, as soon as he spots it, the thing also ducks behind the house and disappears. So again, my sergeant thought he was just seeing things, so he just went back to bed too. But now with the tarps being messed with, he thought he should tell us about it. We don't know what it was. Maybe somebody was messing with us, but I think we would have heard them moving around if it was a person. Whatever it was much better at being quiet than any infantry soldier or Marine I've ever met. Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. This next story was sent in by a National Guard soldier. I want to share something that happened while training with my National Guard unit at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. I moved from regular soldier to officer through a program and was working with a unit while learning. I don't want to give too many details about my service since it's a small community and people might figure out who I am. In 2014, my group decided to do nighttime land navigation at Fort McCoy from 8:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. While the Army usually has people work in pairs, night land navigation is one of the few times we do things alone because the whole point is to test that each soldier can do it without help. So I start on my planned route with my compass, map, and headlamp. For those who don't know, land navigation means finding these metal stakes or markers on a course by marking their locations on a map and then walking from point to point using different map reading skills and a compass. At night this is usually done without light as much as possible. When you do use light, your flashlight has a red lens. This doesn't hurt your night vision as much. These methods also help keep you hidden in a real combat situation, along with being quiet, so it's all part of the training. So I was moving through the woods while trying to be hard to spot or hear. The woodland I was in was part of a bigger forest but people used it a lot. That night we had about 15 soldiers walking around in the woods. My light was a headlamp that switched between red and white light. I had it set up so the red light came on first. When I planned my route, I saw that my points would take me to the other side of the course and back, about an hour and a half distance if you could walk straight, but longer to actually walk because the ground goes up and down and you're in the woods at night, walking around trees slowly, trying not to poke your eyes out on low branches. But my points were pretty much in a straight line, so I was just going to hit each one as I walked out. I figured maybe 2.5 hours out and back. I was going to walk out, hit all my points, then walk back, but I knew if I came back too early I might get more points to find. So I decided to walk out, take a break for an hour once I was done, then slowly come back. The first half went as planned. I got my points without much trouble and ended up sitting on a hillside around 10 o'clock at night. It was cloudy but the moon was full, and it was windy so the clouds kept blocking the moonlight. I could see pretty well when the sky was clear but couldn't see anything when the clouds were too thick. Sometimes I saw a red light bobbing in the distance below me. A couple of my group members passed by on the hill in front of me using a white light to read their map. I scared them when I asked if they needed help because you're not supposed to use white light out there. But by the end of my break, I didn't see any more movement in my area. Most people had probably walked out and back, found all their points, or gotten too lost and used the roads to get back. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable with my surroundings after sitting in the same spot eating old Skittles for a long while. There were owls making noise, trees moving in the wind. It was nice. I walked down this hill and stepped through some bushes and now I'm in a clearing where grassland meets forest. There are some dead trees in the area and one of them is split. It's still standing but split halfway up. At the top of this broken tree, about 15 feet up off the ground, I can make out the clear shape of a head and shoulders against the clouds that were lit up by the moon behind them. There's enough light coming through that I can still see the shape of what looks like a person. So I walk up to ask how the hell they got up there and if they're stuck and need help. Then this shadow moves and I get the clear feeling it's now turned toward me. I stand there looking at it and maybe it's looking at me. The situation definitely feels wrong, but I wasn't going to let another soldier make fun of me, so I asked if they needed help. Hey! But halfway through my sentence, the moonlight comes back and it's immediately clear to me that the thing on that tall stump was not a soldier. This moonlight look is the best view I get of the thing. It looked like a stretched out bald person. Its long arms were holding onto the stump. I couldn't make out the face clearly, but it looked squeezed together. I couldn't see its eyes or mouth, they seemed very small and in the middle of the head. It was skinny like it hadn't eaten, but tall and obviously strong enough to have climbed up this tree. It was definitely looking at me, probably the whole time I was in the clearing, maybe even since I came down the hill. So I curse loudly and then it quickly scrambles down the trunk. I turn on my red light and catch it on all fours moving toward the tree line in the direction I'm heading. I automatically keep switching the lamp to get to white light, that means it goes off, then to flashing red, then back on, then finally to white. So while I'm trying to get my headlamp working, I see the thing at the edge of the woods, but I think it's turned itself around and is backing into the trees, probably to keep watching me. In the few seconds it takes me to get to white light, it's gone. I look at the tree line, which is now silent. When it moved there was a scraping noise, plus the woodland brush was thick. If it was still running I would hear it. So I figure it must have stopped moving and must still be watching me. I fumbled to get my knife out and keep looking around the woods in front of me. After what felt like forever, I start slowly moving sideways from my original path, at an angle that will get me to the paved road that runs along the side of the training area. Once on the road, I figure I can just take that back to where my group is parked. My big problem is that the road is 10 minutes of walking from where I am and it's mostly woodland, can't be helped. I have to get out of this clearing first, and I'm moving really slowly because I'm trying to keep my eyes on where I think this thing still is. The whole time I'm fighting this natural urge to just freeze and not move. After sidestepping about 10 meters, I hear matching rustling sounds and think I see movement. That was enough to make me just turn and run right into a fallen log that trips me. I scramble back to my feet and look back at the tree line where there's noise I can hear. I see a glimpse of a skinny leg and rear end moving back into the woods. At this point I'm done with the whole situation, but I don't want to run again and keep tripping, so I start speed walking to the road, trying to look over my left shoulder as much as I can to see what this thing is doing. Over the noise of my own gear moving, I can hear it moving alongside me, parallel to my path. As I get near the end of the clearing, I think I hear it speeding up like it's trying to cut me off before I get to the trees. I decided to sprint. When I get into the woods, my path is clear, but I'm pretty sure I can still hear it moving with me off to the side. I don't stop, I just keep running hard until I hit that paved road. I fell pretty hard a few times tripping over stuff in the woods, but I just kept frantically getting back up and running. Once I'm on the road, I ran until I couldn't hear it anymore. So now I'm out of breath from this hard run for I don't know how many minutes. From the middle of the road I could see pretty well, so I decided to walk and try to catch my breath. It's quiet for a while, then I hear a branch move about 30 feet up in the air from the woods on the side of the road I had just run out of. I snap my head up and see this pale oval-shaped face, half in shadow, peeking at me from around a tree trunk way up in the tree. I took off running again and didn't stop. After what felt like way too long, I finally made it back. I see the headlights of our trucks and checked my watch. It was 12:15. What happened? Did you get lost out there? Why are you covered in mud? Did you fall down? Why are you out of breath? Oh yeah, I got lost on my way back. You going to be okay? I'm fine. I knew better than to tell them I saw what I saw, basically a monster. In the years since training at Fort McCoy, I have never had anything like that happen again. McCoy doesn't have a history of people disappearing as far as I know, and neither do the two closest towns. I've done night land navigation alone a few times since without problems, but this is less from being brave and more from me deciding that maybe I just misunderstood what I was seeing. But then again, maybe the world is weirder than I thought before.